So it's finally upgrade time. I'm upgrading my 2016 MacBook Pro. This is the machine I've been using for all my original tracks, remixes for the past 5 years, and it hasn't missed a beat. I'm upgrading it to this, the brand new 2021 MacBook Pro 16-inch with the M1 Pro processor. It's an absolute beast and it's brand new. And I thought in this video, I'd go through installing Ableton, my plugins, see what works, see what doesn't work. Let's start off with the hardware. So this is my 2016 MacBook Pro. It's actually the 2015 model. I bought this brand new from Apple in 2016, around about the time they launched that new MacBook with that fancy ribbon touch controller thing, and most importantly for me, the whole lack of normal ports. It just had those USB-C ports, and really I needed the HDMI port, the MagSafe I loved, and obviously USB-A ports. They were essential for me. That's why I bought this spec'd up 2015 model. Now this new MacBook actually solves a whole load of my issues with the previous MacBook in the fact that we have a whole load of these ports back, including the HDMI port, which actually I use when I'm making these videos, and the MagSafe adapter. I can't count the amount of times that I've almost pulled the socket out of the wall, and that MagSafe has actually saved my life. But one thing I'm not too keen on is the USB-C ports, which of course means dongles. Now I have to say I'm not a big fan of dongles. It's the fact that you have to carry these things around everywhere if you want to connect anything to your MacBook. But I can understand they're not going to be adding really old ports to a brand new MacBook. And I'd much rather have a dongle than have to upgrade all of the different kit that I've got within my studio. Now thankfully, one of those things that I need to connect to there is a Thunderbolt 2 hub. Now a lot of my stuff in my studio is all connected through this hub. It drives my ultra-wide monitor, it provides my Ethernet cable for my wired internet, and it also provides my USBs for my USB hub. So all I need to do was connect the USB 2 hub to the new MacBook, which I use this little adapter here. It goes from Thunderbolt 2 to Thunderbolt 3. That was solved. The thing I was most worried about was connecting my audio interface. I'm using an RME Fireface 400. Now that's a pretty old interface, but it works really well for me. But the only problem with that is it's actually Firewire. Now Firewire is a pretty ancient kind of connection, and to be honest I even had a dongle for that for my old MacBook because it only had Thunderbolt 2 ports, so I had to get a Firewire to Thunderbolt 2 dongle. So when it came to connecting this audio interface to my brand new MacBook, of course I had to find a dongle that went from Firewire to Thunderbolt 3. Now that just does not exist, and I can understand why. It's a really old interface. Firewire is really just ancient now. So the only thing I can think of is the fact that I actually have two dongles in this case. I have Firewire going into a dongle that converts it into Thunderbolt 2, and then I have a Thunderbolt 2 to Thunderbolt 3 adapter. So that's two dongles going into the MacBook. It looks pretty ridiculous, but it actually works. And I was actually really surprised. I couldn't believe it actually worked because honestly, that was going to be a deal breaker for me. I'd have to get a whole new audio interface, and I really love my RME. Honestly, couldn't do without it. So that's the hardware sorted. Let's move on to the software. Okay, so let's have a look at the software side. So I've got the new MacBook all connected now. It's so nice to have a new MacBook. There's nothing anywhere. There's no garbage collected for years. I have moved some stuff over though. So underneath my music, I've brought in my Ableton projects and also my samples folder and a few other folders that I use generally. I think there's probably some other stuff that I need to drag over. I've also gone through and installed my drivers for my audio interface. I went to the RME website and thankfully they actually have a driver for the M1. So it's already, and I've got Total Mix loaded here. So this is the kind of interface for the RME interface, and obviously the Fireface settings as well within here. I need to get this installed first because obviously I'm doing the microphone through this for this video. I'm so surprised that it all worked. The dongle worked, the software all worked. There's very little I needed to do. And for an audio interface that is, it must be a decade old by now. I've also installed a few other things like Dropbox, always got Dropbox going. I've also installed the Splice app as well. I knew that was something I was going to need. I've already installed Splice Bridge, but probably I'm going to need Astra as well. I like using Astra, so I'm going to get that. I've also got Punchbox and RC20 under here as well, so I'm probably going to install those as well. Right, now time to get Ableton. Now Live 11 is only available for Intel at the moment, Intel Macs at the moment. So I'm just going to download that, but I also have access to the beta as well, the beta of Live 11, and apparently that has got M1 support, so I'm going to try that one out as well. This is my favorite way of installing something. And let's install Suite. Let's get Suite open, and I'm probably going to have to authorize that straight away. Yep, just need to authorize that. So we got the full demo project within here. I'm going to change over my audio interface actually. Actually, it's already selected the Fireface 400. Nice. I don't even know how it even knew how to do that. In between red and blue, yeah, tell the truth, there's nothing to lose. Well, that all appears to work. So I'm going to change the theme actually. I can't stand the lighter theme. Go mid dark. Yeah, that'll do. Right, so let's quit that and go about installing some plugins. First one has got to be iZotope. I've got all of the iZotope stuff, so I need to get all that downloaded. So looking at a quick article on their website, doesn't look like a lot of them are totally ready for, well, they're certainly not native anyway. It looks a lot of them are being pushed to next year. So I think this is going to be hit and miss whether some of these work or not, but we'll give them a go. Now I've got a whole load of products within here, but I'm going to install the ones that I really need. So I definitely need Ozone. My God, this is taking ages. Why does it take so long? Also need Neutron 3, definitely use that. I'm also going to log into Plugin Boutique and download all the different plugins that I bought from there as well. Next up, it's got to be Cytomic, the glue. I know it's within Ableton, but I just prefer the standalone version, to be honest. And then, of course, the Volve compressor. Love this thing. Okay, so after about 2 hours, I think I've finally got all the plugins that I normally use installed. I'm sure I probably missed a few, but let's try launching live. Okay, so it looks like I haven't got any plugins at the moment. I'm guessing that's something within the preferences. This is very weird. I'm sure I haven't had to turn these preferences on before. Okay, so now I've got to go through and activate them all. I've got a feeling this might take a while. Okay, that seems to have scanned everything. So that seems to have not broken anything just yet. So now I think it's time to open a previous project and see if it crashes. Oh, the spinning wheel. Let's hope that doesn't end up in a disappearing Ableton. Ah, there we go. I have forgotten a couple of plugins. Okay, so take two. I've just installed those plugins. Fingers crossed it works. Seems so weird seeing the default template here. I'm so used to my template. And it all loaded without any issues. I mean, and it loaded really quickly. Like all the audio has got previews straight away. That is rapid quick. I got to... Okay, I can see what's happening here. There's a whole load of things that are not working because they're not registered yet. So I think I've just got to go through every single plugin. And authorize them all. Looks like EXO is registered fine, but none of the samples can be found. That's unusual. Neutron seems to be working all right. That's usually quite a resource hog. Oxford Inflator is all registered. That's nice. RC20, it looks like it's not happy at all. So I think that's pretty much everything all working. The only thing I can find that's not working is that RC20, which is really strange. That's very weird. I thought RC20 would be okay. I'm going to try dropping another instance of that on here and see if that works. No, still not working. Let's try the VST version. Nope, both versions don't work. That's really strange. And I literally just installed that from Splice. Bit annoying and very strange, but that's one plugin out of all the plugins that I use. Let it go, let it go, let it go. I got to let it go, let it go. You know what? That's doing pretty well. There's a lot of plugins going on within here. I've got nothing frozen. Everything is kind of coming from RAM anyway. I've got the mono poly going on there, which can be quite beefy sometimes. I've got the DCO 106. That's providing the other bass line. I've got all the iZotope plugins on there. So I've got Ozone 9, which is actually on one of the maximizer presets within here, this mode IRC4, which normally is really kind of processor hungry, and it can break up. It can break up a bit if you haven't got things frozen, but to be honest, it seems to be coping with this quite well. I mean, it's peaking at about 40%, which is, I think that's better than my previous machine. So that is one of my latest tracks, and I've probably got most of the plugins that I would normally use. So that's like a heavy load. I've got a good few instruments within there, virtual instruments. I've got all my kind of plugins, mastering plugins, Goldfuss in there. I've got a whole load of different stuff within there. So that's a real kind of full project, and that's dealing with it really quite nicely. I have to say, I'm sure my old machine used more CPU, but what I'm really interested in seeing is Ableton Live, the beta version, and seeing how it's optimized for the M1. Let's see about opening up that last project. So remember, this is supposed to be optimized for the M1. I'm guessing there's probably still going to be some fixes, some bug fixes here and there, but I think it should be better. Now, this is interesting. It can now no longer find certain things. This is weird because it opened up fine within the normal version of Ableton. So I think what I'll do to combat that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop another version of Ozone on here. I'm just going to use the Master Assistant just to kind of get a rough master going, just so we can kind of see what it was like before. So that Ozone is now on pretty much the same settings as the previous one. I got to So you can see there it's hitting about 35%. It's not really changing from that. I mean, it's idling at 35%, and then when I play everything, it's still exactly the same. So, I mean, that's 10% less, but why is 10%? So I can't really see much difference between the normal version of Ableton and the beta version, the one that's actually optimized for the M1. I think that's mainly because the processor is just so beefy and powerful anyway, that it's not really having any kind of stress being put on it. I think I'm probably gonna have to throw a lot more tracks at it, a lot more processing at it, probably some heavy synths to really kind of make it break almost. And then we'll start seeing some of the optimization for the M1. But what I'm really interested in seeing is how this project compares on my old Mac. So I'm gonna boot that up now and see what this project is like on that. Okay, so I've now got this loaded up on my 2015 MacBook. I'm gonna play this back and see kind of what the processing's like. You can already see that it's hovering around about 50%. So it's already using 50% of the CPU without doing anything. So let's have a look. Everything is exactly the same. All the plugins are exactly the same. Let's see how it handles it. Let it go, let it go, let it go. I got to let it go, let it go, let it go. Let it go, let it go, let it go. I got to. You know what? This old machine isn't doing too bad. It's hovering around about 60% CPU usage on this project, which isn't bad because there are a lot of plugins within this that are really CPU intensive, especially Ozone, Neutron, Goldfoss, Soothe. They're all in there and it's handling it really well. I really want to see the difference between these two machines, and I think the only way I'm going to do that is by stress testing it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a brand new project, and I'm going to load in a whole load of really CPU intensive plugins to see how much I need to chuck at it before it starts breaking. I'm going to start off with the old machine first and see how that handles it. So first off, I'm going to load Ozone onto the master channel. I'm going to go for the warm and transparent preset. I'm going to change the mode on the maximizer to mode 4 because I think that one is probably the most CPU intensive. Make sure it's doing some stuff. I'm not really interested in the sound quality. I just want to see how much I've got to throw at this until it breaks. So that's Ozone all set up. Now, I think the instrument probably that is the most CPU intensive is probably, for me, Native Instruments Massive X. It is such a CPU heavy plugin. So let's drop Massive X on this track. And of course I need some MIDI as well, so let's grab a MIDI file. Really basic preset. Let's go for one of the R House presets. These are quite heavy. There you go, I've got that preset there and it's already using about 39% processing on that. I'm going to duplicate that channel. This is probably going to sound like trash, but I want to just push that CPU and see how it goes. I'm going to try changing the presets on one of them. I think it might be using the same resources. I'm not sure. Okay, so we're up to about 60% there. Let's see if I can add some more of these. This is sounding terrible, but this is just a stress test. This is just to see what we can do. Should I double it? I might actually copy all of these. Let's double all of them, see how it goes. 14 instances of Massive X. Oh yeah, it really doesn't like that. Let's take a couple of these away. I want to see the point at which it breaks. Okay, 10 it can handle. Let's try 12. Okay, so I think we found the limit. That is 11 instances of Massive X and then Ozone on the master channel. And that is killing my 2015 MacBook Pro. Let's see how it is on the new MacBook. Okay, so I've now got the same exact project open in Ableton 11 on the new 2021 MacBook. Let's see how this handles it. That's around about 70%. That's not too bad. I was expecting a little bit more, but maybe the optimized version might be better. But I'm going to try adding a few more channels and seeing if we can make it break again. Let's do 14 channels. Okay, 14 channels seems exactly the same. Let's take it up to 18 channels. Okay, we've taken up a little chunk. It's up to about 80% now. I'm going to try adding another 4. So we've now got 22 channels of Massive X. Okay, definitely broken it. Broken it at 22. Let's try taking a couple of them away. 18's okay. Let's try 19. There you go. Yeah, it's broken. It's broken at 19 channels of Massive X, which is, I mean, that is pretty impressive anyway. Like I would never have more than probably 3 or 4 channels of Massive X anyway, but to have 18 channels with it on and Ozone on the master. Right, I'm going to save this project again, and then we're going to open it up in the beta version. So I'm going to open exactly the same project in the beta version. This is, remember, this is optimized for the M1. So hopefully this should actually do better. However, I'm not sure if Massive X is actually optimized for the M1. So I don't know whether that's good or bad. Oh God, no, this is worse, much worse. Let's take a couple away. Let's go down to 17. Okay, this is weird. I've stopped everything and it's still playing something. How is it even doing that? That is just weird. I don't know what's going on there. I can't even stop it. I can't even stop the audio coming out. I'm going to have to reload the project. This is just not working. Try reloading it again. Okay, let's try this again. I'm going to try with 17 instances and then try go from there. No, that's just broken. I don't know. Something wrong with that beta version. It's just not working. Either it's Massive X that's not working, or something within the Ableton beta, which I would have I think it's probably the beta, because obviously it's fine in normal version of Ableton 11. But yeah, it's still playing. I've got everything stopped. Yeah, it's still playing away in the background there. Okay, so the beta's not quite ready yet. Obviously, there are some bugs in there. You kind of expect that. But the good news is Ableton 11 is really good on the M1 Pro processor. I mean, as you can see there, 18 tracks worth of Massive X and Ozone on the master. It can really handle it. And that's, you know, before it starts spluttering and glitching and stuff like that, almost double what I could do on my old MacBook. So, I mean, that's pretty good, to be honest. I've always found Massive X to be the most CPU intensive plugin out of all the ones that I use. So the fact that it can cope up with up to 18 instances of that before it starts choking is really, really great. So I think no matter what I kind of throw at it, it's going to be able to deal with it quite well. As for the fact whether I'm going to be using the M1 Pro as my main production system, not quite yet. I think the fact that there are a few bugs with some of the plugins that I have, means I can't quite use it because I do need to use this for work. This is my main music production machine, so I need something I can really count on. And I think yet there are some plugins that I use, and this is not down to Ableton, not down to Apple. This is down to certain plugin manufacturers that aren't just quite ready yet, which is understandable. The machine's only just come out. They've only just started being able to test it. So I'm sure within the next few weeks, next month or so, all the plugins should be up to date and we should be able to just use them. So that's when I'll probably switch on to that as my main machine. But all signs are good. The new MacBook is fantastic. It's so quick. It launches apps so quick. It seems to handle stuff so well. Yeah, I'm really glad I got this machine.